Here we are at Tulum. Our guide was wonderful. He explained how a special kind of tree was used for alcohol, and they thought that if they got drunk, a beautiful woman would lead them into the jungle and get them severely lost. He also explained how the Mayans were not opposed to using nature with their buildings, such as the trees growing from the walls. Tulum is actually a little unusual because of the walls. It is one of the very few found that has such. Tulum was a port city, trading mostly in turquoise and jade. And when you see the harbor, it just takes your breath away. The first house we saw after going through the walls, up close, was the cenote house, which is pictured right here. This is where the priests would purify their sacrifice. There's a cenote actually right underneath this building, which you will see in a little bit. After the sacrifice was purified, then they would be taken to the Temple of the Winds, which is right up there. The one thing to remember with these buildings is they were very colorful during their heyday. They were painted in reds and yellows, very bright. Right here is that cenote. Mexico really doesn't have rivers like we do here in Pennsylvania. What they have is sinkholes with water in them, and water, of course, is extremely important. Without it, you don't survive. So it meant a whole lot to them, and it was part of their religious life. Temple of the Winds is very aptly named. Even in modern times, it is extremely windy in this place, but the breeze felt absolutely wonderful. The humidity is 90% here, and the temperatures, even though the weather is cooler in April than later in the year, it's in the 80s, and everybody here is sweating. There are about 60 structures in Tulum. There is so much to see, and unfortunately with our tour, we didn't get to see everything. But what we did get to see was amazing. This right here was the Great Palace where they believe the royalty lived. Two stories high, the Temple of the Frescoes is one of the best preserved buildings in Tulum. Inside are still murals that you can see. Unfortunately, my camera wasn't good enough to see the murals inside, but I could see the red handprints outside. Tulum was discovered in the 1840s, and when they first found this temple, they found it covered in mural paintings representing deities with serpents, alligators, fish, and other marine life in what appears to be a religious ceremony dedicated to Kukulkan. There were two stelas found in Tulum. The first one was taken to the British Museum, but the second one is right here in front of the Temple of the Frescoes. Our guide likened this to today's newspaper, and it has on it the Mayan cycle, which we are familiar with, particularly the 2012 end of the world. However, with the Mayans, they were just talking about a different cycle in time. This is the house of the Cholton. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly. It is more than likely a multi-generational building. Here is a depiction of the diving god. This is on several of the buildings. Piece of trivia. Did you know that Yucatan means I don't know your language in Mayan? It's what they said when the conquistadors asked them what place it was. This was just another piece of information that our guide shared with us that day. April 29th, 2014. El Castillo, or the castle, is the crowning jewel of Tulum. It stands on the highest point of the city, and it is absolutely breathtaking. It is surrounded by an interior wall where the castle is, along with several temples, including the Temple of the Descending God. Here is the Temple of the Descending God. As you can see, there is another depiction of the diving god. There were several men up there. I wish I could be one of them, but it's probably smart that the general populace is not allowed to be on the ruined buildings. Tulum has various platforms. Some of them have tombs underneath them. There is talk that some of them had staircases to reach certain buildings. The smaller ones are altars. Here is a shrine, kind of like the shrine in front of Temple of the Winds. This is the small temple where they found the first stela, which, as I said before, is now in the British Museum. And also here is the back of El Castillo. I imagine while it was painted in its day that it had to be quite imposing for the boats coming in from the harbor. The staircase here, leading down to the beach, obviously is modern. They had made a decision to close up the stairs from ancient times. And again, a good decision. It would keep tourists more likely to be safe and to preserve the past. And about here is when we were out of time and had to boot scoot boogie back to the tram for the bus. Hasta luego, Tulum.